Reclaiming Catholic Intimacy, formerly Charting Toward Intimacy, covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised.
I want you to answer 3 quick questions in your head. Don't overthink them. Just go with your gut. 1, do you ever just randomly feel in the mood in the middle of a Tuesday, unprompted, with nothing particular setting it off? 2, when you imagine having sex with your husband tonight, is your first reaction something like anticipation? Or something more like, okay, I guess? 3, have you ever wondered if the reason desire feels so hard is that you've been trying to fix the wrong problem this entire time? If you answered no and not really to those first couple of questions, this episode is for you. Welcome to Reclaiming Catholic Intimacy, the podcast for Catholic women that helps you improve your sex life, strengthen your marriage, and embrace God's design for love. My name is Ellen Holloway, and today we're going to figure out if you have responsive or spontaneous desire, and I'm going to tell you a little bit how to navigate what that means and how to make that amazing in your marriage. So first off, we were handed a model for desire, and that model is not what most of the population experiences as desire. Okay, so the cultural script that we have is that desire shows up first and then you pursue sex. And that is like a healthy relationship. And that means that you love your partner and all of that kind of stuff. We see this in movies. We see this in books. We even see this in the conversations that we have about sex. And we assume that this is the normal pattern. And so when we don't feel desire spontaneously, then we immediately think that something is wrong. Something's wrong with us. There are 2 types of desire: spontaneous desire and responsive desire. Both are completely normal, and you're typically going to experience one predominantly. So let's talk about both of them, and then let's figure out which one you are. Spontaneous desire. This is desire that appears seemingly out of nowhere, unprompted by context, unprompted by simulation. It's just like a thought pops into your head and you desire sex. This is often more common in men. Women with spontaneous desire tend to initiate more naturally and notice arousal before any sexual context begins. That's spontaneous desire. Let's talk about responsive desire. Responsive desire shows up in response to the right conditions, in response to physical touch, emotional connection, relaxed environment, feeling safe. Safety is so important, ladies. Responsive desire does not mean you are broken. It is not a problem to experience responsive desire. This is a normal desire type. Responsive desire does not mean you are uninterested or do not love your husband. Responsive desire does not mean you have a low sex drive. It means that your desire needs context in which to emerge. Your desire doesn't just come out of nowhere. It needs the right context. What responsive desire feels like is you're not really thinking about sex. You don't really feel in the mood. You say yes to an initiation, maybe kind of hesitantly, but then you find yourself genuinely enjoying sex once you are in it. The problem with responsive desire is that if you're waiting to feel desire before engaging, you're going to end up waiting forever. Your desire doesn't lead, it follows. And one of the most important things that we need to remember with responsive desire is that it's okay to say yes to sex, even when you don't actually feel like it. And this is in no way like some kind of obligation or duty issue with sex. Like when you have responsive desire, you're not going to feel ready to have sex. You won't. That's not how your desire for sex works. Your desire for sex grows in context. So it's actually very normal for someone with responsive desire to say yes, even though she doesn't actually want to have sex. Because the question to ask yourself is not, do I want to have sex? Because if you have responsive desire, your desire hasn't had any context in which to grow. So no, you don't want to have sex. The question really is, am I open to having sex? Am I open to getting aroused? And if the answer to that is yes, then great, say yes to sex. Get into it and recognize that your desire is going to come. That's just naturally how it happens. So let's figure out which one you are. Maybe you've listened to this and you've already figured out which one you are, but I've got a couple of questions that can help you navigate this. So question number 1, does desire ever just show up for you? in the middle of a regular day, unprompted? If yes, and that happens fairly regularly, then you have spontaneous desire. If rarely or never desire just shows up randomly for you, you're probably on the more responsive side. Question number 2. Think about the last time you had sex and actually enjoyed it. How did it start for you? Did you go in already feeling it, or did it take some time? Did it take some touch, some connection before you got there? The answer to this question is going to tell you a lot. Because if you started sex already feeling it, you're probably more on the spontaneous side. If it took some time to get into it, but then you did end up enjoying it, then you are on the more responsive side. Question number 3. Have you ever felt not in the mood, but said yes to sex? So have you ever said yes to sex without feeling in the mood and ended up glad that you did? If yes, you are 100% responsive desire. And the last question I have for you, and this is just a helpful question because those 3 questions have probably helped you've figured out which one you are. This question is going to help you navigate having that desire type. So what conditions make you more likely to feel desire? This is really key for those of you who figured out that you have responsive desire because your desire is context dependent. So your conditions matter. So I want you to think about like the time of day, your stress level, the emotional connection, what kind of like direct stimuli, what kind of physical environment, how your body feels. These kinds of things are going to help you navigate your desire type. All right, so what do we do with this information? Now, first off, I want a note to those of you who kind of figured out, oh, I have spontaneous desire. It can be really easy to be like, oh, I have spontaneous desire, so therefore I don't need to work on anything. My desire is just fine. I would not assume that if I were you. Because your desire can still be suppressed by stress, by resentment, by fear, by unresolved mindset issues. So there's still like plenty, right? There's always room for us to grow. There's always things for us to work on. And so I just want to like caution you if you're like, oh my gosh, I have spontaneous desire. Check. Don't need to worry about that. Like your desire can still be suppressed by these things. So it's important to like be aware of your surroundings and what's going on in your life and your stress level and things like that. Now, if you have responsive desire, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop waiting to feel in the mood before engaging with your husband. Stop waiting for it because it's not how your desire works. Instead, I want you to focus on creating the conditions that are going to help your desire grow the most. So that last question I gave you, I want you to reflect on that. How can you lower your stress? How can you build more emotional connection with your husband? How can you make it feel more safe for you, emotionally safe, physically safe? How can you work on your mindset to make sure that your mind is more of you're open-minded here. You have positive thoughts about sex instead of very braced and closed off to sex. Now, something else that I really want to mention here when it comes to responsive desire, because this comes up for me a lot when I coach a woman who kind of figures out that she has responsive desire and then she goes to her husband and says, hey, look, husband, I have responsive desire. That's why we've been having so much trouble lately. And her husband comes back with, well, then we need to figure out how to get you to have a spontaneous desire. No, that is not how it works. There is no reason for you to try to strive for spontaneous desire. Responsive desire is beautiful. It's so great. It builds in so many ways. Responsive desire can actually be so much stronger than spontaneous desire because it builds in context. So it's not just this like random thought that pops in the head. It's like this flame that just like grows and you just keep putting logs on the fire in the context of sex, and the desire can become so much greater than like a spontaneous spark. So responsive desire is extremely powerful. It's a really powerful form of desire. There's no reason for you to strive for spontaneous desire. First off, it's not going to work. Like you can't just like change your desire type. If you feel like earlier on in your relationship, you had more spontaneous desire and now you have responsive desire, it's actually not necessarily because your desire type changed. It's because your threshold changed. So you very likely still had responsive desire. It's that your threshold for that desire level has changed because you're more stressed now. You have kids, your life has happened, work has happened, money issues have happened. All of these things have happened. So your threshold for desire is higher now. And that's why it feels harder instead of like before it felt easier. But you very likely, like, you didn't change desire types. If you have responsive desire, you have responsive desire. That's how it works. Now, responsive and spontaneous desire are on a spectrum, right? So you can have something that's a little bit more in the middle, and you can have a little bit of kind of a flip-flopping feeling with it, but you're typically going to have predominantly one of them. And ultimately, I'm beating a dead horse here, but there's no reason to try to strive to like switch your desire type, because that's not how it works. What I want you to do is put the energy into you and your husband figuring out how to cultivate the desire type that you have and loving that. Like, live it up, right? And then the other thing that I want to close out for those of you with responsive desire, the most important things that you can change from here, knowing that you have responsive desire, is instead of asking yourself when your husband initiates, do I want to have sex right now? I want you to instead ask yourself, am I willing to get aroused? Just change that one question, and I can guarantee you that's going to change your whole sex life. Thanks so much for listening. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast, could you do me a favor really quick? Go into the podcast app that you are listening in, and if it gives you an option to rate and review, please rate and review this podcast. It helps us so much in reaching new listeners and spreading the word about this podcast. Thanks so much for listening.